Hi there, I'm going to be doing a questions about the MSC Seaside. We went to the MSC Seaside in October. We left on the 12th and we did a 14-night cruise around the Caribbean on the MSC Seaside. I'm going to be telling you what I loved and what I hated about the cruise in general. There was lots of things I didn't like, and there was lots of things we really enjoyed as a family. We travelled as a family of 4, so me, my husband and my 2 children, Chanel who was 7 and Christian who was 6. 5 at the time of travel, sorry, 6 now. I'm just going to be giving you in this video a short questions about whether you would like the cruise or whether it's something you wouldn't enjoy about the cruise. I've wrote down some things in my diary. As I said, we went in October 2018. We travelled on Friday. We boarded the ship on the Friday. The whole plane journey from London to Miami was amazing. We went with American Airlines, couldn't fault them, have heard so many bad reviews. Me personally and my family, we found them to be absolutely amazing. We then landed in Miami, where we then got the MSC coach to the ship, which was very straightforward through security, through the MSC security. We then boarded the ship. The first thing that put me off the ship as soon as I put foot was the lack of staff behind bars, and your first welcome drink was very stressful and not enjoyable. We waited over 45 minutes for our welcome drink. The queues were horrendous. There was people on that didn't have to get a flight to the ship that already lived in Miami, who were on the ship, of course, from 12 o'clock. So you've got all of these people, and then you've got people that have come in through customs, so forth and so on. There already we had made some friends with some American people. I absolutely love the Americans. I think they're very welcoming, very friendly, who had then told us that they had waited over an hour for a drink. So then I was a bit like, okay, well, we're all first on board. This has got to be what happens. It was my second cruise, my husband's first cruise, and already he was like, I hope the service is not going to continue like this. We stayed 14 nights. We did a back-to-back, which I have got lots of dislikes about doing a back-to-back. Some people might really enjoy a back-to-back. Me personally, I would never do a back-to-back, and especially not on an MSC cruise. I'm going to get straight in and start telling you things that I didn't like. The first thing, as a family, we did not like was the level of customer service that you received on the ship. I found absolutely appalling. You would go to a bar, you'd be invisible. You would get ignored. It would take you ages to get a drink. And this is something I didn't like. I felt like the members of staff didn't really care that you were on holiday or vacation, as other people might like to say it. They didn't really care. I could really see that they weren't enjoying their job, and it really paid off on customers. Now, when you go on ships, we all know a back-to-back or a week cruise can cost you quite a few £1,000s. This is a holiday that we thought, we're going to experience this and we're going to go for the full atmosphere of this ship. So we've got our drinks package, our outdoor balcony. We thought we're going to make this a holiday to never forget. You know, you're going around the Caribbean, you've got your kids, you want them to experience the best. That already was a big downer on our holiday. Then I'm going to move on to, obviously I've told you about the bars, and the drink service was appalling. So obviously as days went on, the service wasn't getting any better on the ship. I just always felt like I'd had not the best experience at the bars. Our first evening, we had gone down for our evening meal. We actually dined on our first week, because I'll move on later into the video and explain why we changed restaurants. Our first week, we dined at Seashore on deck 5. I, myself and my husband, our kids hardly ever had dinner with us because they were more interested in the kids club. So me and my husband never ever have time off from the kids, or we've never experienced going out for a meal without kids. So to us it was all like, oh my god, this is so exciting. Our waiter was absolutely horrific. I mean horrific. He was rude. He would serve us, he would come over and take our food order when we didn't even have a drink. Now, I've been brought up in the restaurant industry. I've had my father who's owned multiple restaurants. So I know that you take drinks order before you take food order. This did not happen. So on your first few days, you're a bit more, won't say anything. You know, maybe he's going to understand what type of people we are. He's got 2 weeks to get to know us. Like the first 2 days, he doesn't know how we are, what we like. So come the third evening of our restaurant, I explained to the waiter that I feel he should take our drinks order before taking our food order. This did not go down well at all. He did do that moving forward for the rest of the week. But it was never with a happy smile. It was never like, good evening, how are you? How are the kids? You know, you're meant to have that personal feel with your waiter. We did not get that. We always felt like we were that couple that would always be a burden to him. And it really, really did show. Our food order, our starters would come, and then 35 minutes later you'd be waiting, you wouldn't have a drink in your glass. You know, he was walking by our table very often because we were right in the middle of the service station. He could see we didn't have a drink. You know, we had the all-inclusive package, but we didn't have the bottle of wine. It was by the glass. And our glass was constantly empty because, you know, you sit, you order, you drink, you know, that first glass goes down very quick. He would never acknowledge that our glass was empty. Our mains used to come and I'd be like, do you mind filling up our glass? This would take him about 10-15 minutes to do. And at this point, you're halfway through your meal, and as you're eating, you want to go with that elegance of eating and drinking at the same time. That could not happen. I really felt the service in our first week in the restaurant was absolutely horrific. I then, towards the end of the week, when we knew that people were disembarking and new people were embarking the ship, I decided to speak to the restaurant manager. And therefore I asked if I could be moved down to the restaurant downstairs, which at this point they said was impossible because they had people already booked. So where I answered I would not be dining here because I didn't feel comfortable, knowing that he was going to be our waiter for the next week as well. He had really made the whole experience very horrible. I wasn't the only one that felt like this. Some people don't like to voice their opinions, some people like to keep them in. I voiced my opinions to the point where I then took it to the hospitality management. And where then they'd contacted us in our room saying, we have moved you downstairs to deck 6 in the Ipamemia restaurant. There, I could not fault any service. It's the service that we should have encountered on our first week. We'd moved downstairs. The service was absolutely amazing. The waiter had already poured our drink. If anything, he would leave the bottle on the table knowing it was just me and my husband that would drink it and we wouldn't share it with others. That's how I think a service should be, knowing that people are honest, not everybody is dishonest. We sat on a table of 2. you know, who could we give our bottle of wine to? Like, go round and say, anybody want a glass of wine? Our service was absolutely amazing. We had a waiter called John Paul, who was a young trainee waiter who really wanted to make himself known to the head of the waiter team. He was amazing. A few times in that week we introduced our kids, because we thought we're going to go and see a show after dinner, so you're going to be coming to eat with us. And they were absolutely amazing with our children, absolutely amazing, to the point where my kids wanted to come to eat because they knew how friendly they were, how they used to get their Fanta, their Coca-Cola Zero ready before we'd even sat down. That is the service you expect when you pay good quality money for a cruise. Now I'm going to move on to the buffet. The buffet that we used to eat at lunchtime, I used to find it was the same things all the time. And it wasn't really catered as well as it should be. Yes, they had amazing pizza on board. The burgers were amazing. The hot dogs were amazing. But after 2 weeks for lunch, you just want more than just a burger or a pizza or a hot dog. You know, you want, I don't know, a rice dish or a nice pasta dish. Those types of dishes were there, but you just found that they were very similar in taste, where you just think, you know, could you not just do something a bit different? I found the quality of food, and even in the restaurant, not 100% to my taste. I didn't like much of the food. I enjoyed most of their starters, but their mains just weren't for me. I'm not a steak eater. I'm a chicken, fish eater, a white meat eater, and I just didn't feel that they had much. So a few times I found myself ordering more starters and not eating the main. That's just what I prefer to do. You're free to order as much as you want. Obviously you are going to get the looks, but I didn't really care. I knew what I was doing, and I knew I didn't like the main, and I preferred the starters. The buffet for breakfast I found was okay. I wouldn't say it's nothing special. I wouldn't say it's something that I come home and was like, oh, I wish like we were still on the MSC cruise so that I could continue eating that breakfast. It didn't leave a big impact. I found the bacon was deep fat fried, so it would all be stuck together and you'd be fighting for the bacon. It was just, things were cooked more in a rush than cooked nicely, if that makes sense. That's how I felt the whole scenario to be. I'm now going to move on to the outdoor balcony. I found the rooms to be very clean, very efficient. I found our room attendant to be amazing. Always kept on top of our room when she didn't have to, because I was just like, you don't have to come in, because obviously I'd put the kids to sleep for a bit in the afternoon, and they would go under sheets, and I was like, you really don't have to come back in and clean it. Honestly, it wouldn't bother me if I had to come home after the shows and after like going to places on the ship to realise that my bed hasn't been remade. That to me just does not bother me at all. I was like, because they work really hard. You can see how hard they work. They don't just clean your room once a day, they clean it twice a day. And to me, it was just like, honestly, you don't have to come back in. The rooms were very spacious. My kids had the sofa bed that turned into bunk beds. We had an outdoor balcony. Could I now cruise without a balcony? Most probably not, because the things we saw cruising with an outdoor balcony was just phenomenal. Obviously, if people have an indoor balcony, they can see that because the ship is all very open. I found the rooms to be amazing. There was one scenario on the ship that I found really quite, I don't really know how to explain it. I felt like, what have we just wasted our money on? So halfway through the first week of the ship, you get to go to a captain's question and answering. I had really gone with the mindset of so many things going wrong on our first week, where I wanted some questions and some answers, because it's a very new ship. I wanted to know, if we were to cruise again with MSC, is this the level of customer service you get on all your ships? Obviously, when you cruise, you spend a lot of money. You spend a lot of money on your excursions, you spend a lot of money on your flights, on your cruise, and depending on what room you want, you spend even more. I wanted to know whether this was what you get on all of their ships, because we wanted to do the Mediterranean this year in the summer. So I had gone with a question where it wasn't rebounded very well with the people in the audience, which I didn't care. I was talking about my own personal experience, and I knew that lots of people had the same points of view as me. But when you're in front of the captain, people like to ask questions or like to make the captain happy. That's not me. If I've got a question, I will ask it. I had asked the captain and the head of hospitality if this is the level of customer service that they have enrolled on this ship. To where I was answered by the captain, these are people that come from the Philippines, that leave their family to come here, that they're still learning, they're still training. Where I thought, surely you would train your members of staff off ship before putting them out to service. You know, why should a customer have to have the rebound of, I can understand that these people have come from far and left their family. I totally understand that. I'm not cold-hearted, I'm very warm-hearted. I can really understand that, but for them then to ruin my holiday, or for them not to want to be here, is really not my problem. It's not my problem, it's MSC's problem. They should maybe recruit people that live closer by, that people, their families and relatives can come and visit them more often. You know, that to me is how I would see it. So the whole scenario of members of staff being the way they were, from the captain, I think he gave a really sour answer back, as if to say, well, what would you be like if you were taken away from your family and had no contact? Yes, I understand what you're saying, but you still haven't answered my question of, is this the level of customer service you provide? Because if it is, me personally, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think they should really embrace on their customer service skills, like their information desk. I just found them all to be as if they had a chip on their shoulder. The smiles weren't there, the welcome, like good afternoon, how can I help you, just was not there. Considering this ship leaves from Miami, where America is a very friendly country where customer service is everything. We've been to America a few times. We've been to Orlando and other places where they can't do enough, and some people find it annoying, some people really love it. Me personally, I really like it that people take their jobs seriously, because jobs are hard to get these days. And I just found like the members of staff really didn't want to be there. To one evening, to my absolute horror, we sat at a bar, me and my husband, as the kids were in kids club. I will do a video about kids club because that's where I found the holiday to be at its best. We sat at a bar, and one of the waiters that was asking me what I'd like to drink, he wasn't even looking at me. He was looking somewhere else, like in a distance, as if to say, hurry up and order, what do you want? Where I then asked this person that worked on the ship, do you enjoy your job? You know, I was trying to make conversation. I wanted to know, do you enjoy your job? Because you really look like you would rather be 110 different places but be where you are today. Where he then replied, I would enjoy my job more if I got paid more. At the back of mine and my husband's head, we always knew this was the case of why these people didn't like working on these ships. Let's face it, if you get paid a good wage, a good salary, you love your job. If you're getting paid what these people are getting paid on this ship, you're not going to like your job. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to want to do your job. And that's what we found